All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Really? Hey, welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here in the middle of winter, and John just laughed when I did that cold opening of All the Leaves Are Brown and the Sky is Gray, because I told John just before the show started that sometimes we get dinged with the titles of our programming, so we have to be a little more innocuous. Is that the right word?
Yes, you have to be less specific.
Less specific.
Innocuous is, in fact, being less specific.
It's the middle of winter. I'm Tim Bennett with, as always, my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're in our 11th year. We're looking for sponsors, too, if you want to join us. That could always help. But we're in our 11th year. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com to learn more about us. All of our audio and video platforming are there. And thanks for everybody who listened to us over the holidays. Again, I was looking at the numbers in the last month comparatively, mid-month of December to mid-month now, January 16th. And we didn't have much of a drop off.
No. Although you did send
everyone time shifts.
You did send some numbers for we provide a lot of our partners, ideas about impressions and things like that. And the last month that was similar to December? Did you look back and do any spreadsheet charting stuff?
If I remember, I'm going to say August.
You're close, June.
I wonder why June.
Well, June makes sense. June is you're hitting the beach, you're getting out of town, and people are just not paying as much attention as other stuff, right?
Yeah, no, it's funny what things gain traction. We have I was laughing because when you bring up the numbers, when I was looking at the numbers, certain little things that I guess it reminds me of the time we did that road trip years ago, and the one picture we posted of the food, the road trip food we bought,
Snowballs,
Dentine gum and Slim Jims
on the dashboard of a VW Beetle.
Got more play than anything else we did. So you never know what's going to hit, I guess.
What did our friend Paul Hagen always say? You cannot create lightning in a bottle. If it happens, it happens, but you can't go out of your way. Right when we came on air, I noticed that our good friends, the boys in the booth, put on their focus group caps.
Oh, they did?
What do you mean? We've been wearing it all week.
Yeah, man. Been excited for today.
Yeah.
What's that about?
We missed you guys.
Yeah, Focus Group Wednesdays, baby.
We have Garrett on audio, John on video. And you guys are doing good. Welcome to the third official week of the new year.
Yeah, doing good in the new year. How about yourselves?
I'm doing good. All of us punched our ticket on Spaceship Earth for another ride around the sun. This little noisy ball of dirt.
Did you break any resolutions yet?
I did something very wise this year. I didn't make too many resolutions to break. If you don't make them, you can't break them. Can't break them.
You and I have always said September seems to be the time we make
That's my favorite time, yeah. I will say that if you want to do yourselves any favors, on a food note, just cut back on sugar. Don't eliminate it entirely, but, cut back on it.
So I have a good friend that has done that, she and her partner, and they said it's remarkable. They said they struggled the first week.
Oh, yeah. And
then you don't realize that sugar's in everything. And that even means the corn syrup or whatever, whether it's ketchup or it's mayonnaise or vinegar. But they did well on it, and of just cutting back on sugar. You and I go about this. It's my New Year's resolution every year to lose weight, and we see how well that's worked. But I figure I always need to do something, but you can't be too. I can't make such a drastic change that I deny myself or kill myself because I had a slice of pizza when I should not have. I think you have to say you'll have it, but you realize you're not going to have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
So that's what I try to do.
Now, when you opened the show, which I thought I had a note to myself to mention something, but when you opened with All the Leaves Are Brown,
right,
and that old song.
What happened? Did I pull it out?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Working now.
Was it working before? I hope so.
Yeah, for the most part.
The last 10 seconds, all of a sudden, just.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
So you open with that. So a couple weeks ago, my mom celebrated her 82nd birthday.
Wow.
At the beginning of the month, and my mom's favorite drink, which she was denied because her husband forgot the ingredients to the party we went to, but my mom loves a Pina Colada.
If you like to eat,
okay. So after her birthday festivities, I'm in the car driving back to the city, and I had the big 80s on, and Alan Hunter was playing the top 10 list from 1980. And so literally, I get in the car, and Alan Hunter goes, now this song hit #1 in 79, but it stayed at #1 in 80. And we call it the Pina Colada song,
right.
but that's not the name. And I'm listening to it's totally a late 70s song, and I'm listening to the lyrics. I was tired of my lady.
I was tired of my
lady.
Who sang that song? Was it Christopher? Not Christopher.
No, it was a one-hit wonder, too. One-hit wonder. And meaning that guy didn't
know who that
didn't
is.
really do much else. So we're listening to the song in the car, and Bob says to me at one point, he goes, I've never really listened to it before, but she was going to cheat on him. He was going to cheat on her. Then she walks into the bar they're supposed to meet at, and he's like, oh, it's my lady. And we laughed. And then he said, I never knew you liked pina coladas and getting caught in the rain.
Yeah.
I'm not much into health food. I am into champagne.
I thought of that, too. Like they weren't mad at each other. Wouldn't you be mad at one another?
It's Rupert Holmes.
Rupert Holmes, that's who it is. So you're both going to trick out on the other one, and you end up being with your
So
partner.
later on, so Bob says to me, he goes, and here's the thing, in the song, they just kind of laugh and they get on with their lives. He said, would that happen today? And I'm like, no way. I said, that was the late 70s. Free love, the whole bit.
Well, so here's what I think's weird about that. So your mom, don't you think that's too much of a coincidence?
I heard it twice on that same exact day that she wanted to have a pina colada, because later on I heard it again, and it was on a different station.
And I can't tell you when was the last time you heard the song before that?
Actually, when Garrett and John threw up the Pina Colada song, the last time I heard it was in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, actually, which is where that came from.
I just think that's one of those odd coincidences.
And now, guess what? I can't get the song out of my head. I'm whistling it. I'm like, it's just, and it's from 1979, 1980. So it's kind of, and then all the leaves are brown. That's like a whole different, yeah.
What caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I am a big fan of getting to know, maybe too well, whenever we have a cable technician come or someone from the phone company, if that's long gone now. But I think especially with like the Kenmore repair guy or anybody that comes to your home to do work, I always ask questions. I'm always curious. And I always find these people to be super great, cool people, down to earth. For example, one time the dryer upstate had to have a new belt put in it, and the guy goes down to the basement, and he says, oh, my God. I'm like, what? He goes, I can actually get to your dryer. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you be able to get to the dryer? I mean, he goes, he just waves his hand, and he goes, you have no idea. You have no idea. So I found this article, and it's written by a woman named Lauren Hough, and Tim's going to post this on the Facebook account because it's a long article, but I think everyone needs to read it because it is just fantastic. She's a lesbian. She has a very short haircut, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the title of her piece was, I was a cable guy. I saw the worst of America. So I'm going to read 3 paragraphs. So it's like story time, kids. And it starts like this. She goes, I can't tell you about a specific day as a cable tech. I can't tell you my first customer was a cat hoarder. I can tell you the details. That I smeared Vicks on my lips to try to cover the stench of rugs and walls and upholstery soaked in cat piss. Oh. That I wore booties not to protect the carpets from the mud on my boots, but to keep the cat piss off my soles. I can tell you the problem with her cable service was that her cats chewed through the wiring. That I had to move a mummified cat behind the television to replace the jumper. That ammonia seeped into the polyester fibers of my itchy blue uniform, clung to the sweat in my hair, that the smell stuck to me through the next job.
There's no way.
That's just the opening of the article, or the long form piece. Next paragraph. But what was the next job? This is the stuff I can't remember. How a particular day unfolded. Maybe the next job was the Great Falls, Virginia housewife who answered the door in some black, skimpy thing I never really saw because I work very hard at eye contact when faced with out-of-context nudity. She was expecting a man. I'm a 6-foot lesbian. If I showed up at your door in a uniform with my hair cut and what's known to barbers as the International Lesbian Option number 2, very short crop.
Gym teacher.
You might mistake me for a man. Everyone does. She was rare in that she realized I'm a woman. We laughed about it. She found a robe while I replaced her cable box. She asked if I needed to use her bathroom, and I loved her. Apparently, no one asks these people if they need the bathroom or a glass of water. No one asks, and they do need the bathroom. So always ask your cable person, you need to use the bathroom? So
this is right up your alley with the whole chatting up the cable guy.
Or what caught my eye. So again, this is a piece by Lauren Hough. She's a well-known writer. She lives in Texas. She's actually a bartender, but she's written for Granta, Huffington Post. She worked for 10 years as a cable tech in the Virginia suburbs. All right, so I'll randomly, I want to get to the Dick Cheney one here. Two other ones. Blue-collar customers are always my favorite. They don't treat you like a servant. They don't tell you, we'd like the help to use the side door. Could you imagine someone telling you to use the side door? Like, they don't assume you're an idiot just because you wear a name tag to work and your hands are calloused. The books on their shelves aren't bound in leather, but the spines are cracked, meaning they read them. Most of them, when you turn on the TV, it's not set to Fox. They're the only customers who tip. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
It's solid, stuff of the earth. She went to one house one time where she was denied access to the basement for a while because Otto was down. Otto was this woman's mastiff, and the woman said, you can't go to the basement. And then the tech's like, why not? She said, well, and she said, does Otto have a friend down there? She thought there was another dog. And the woman laughed and said, no, there's no kid, there's no other dog. It took me a second. She finally gave her permission to go down. And she had to get permission from the person in the basement. But when she went downstairs, how did she say it? And I was allowed down into the dungeon where she had a man in a cage to get access to the cage.
How would you have a guy come over for cable and you got a guy in a cage in the basement?
Maybe she thought it was an external problem.
Was it an S&M scene?
Yeah. She said, I don't remember if she had a bad splitter. So that was probably early on. After a few years, not even a dungeon was interesting. Sex workers tip, though. So apparently the woman was a sex worker. This guy was paying her to have him in a cage in the basement and to say nasty things to him and to demean him. And,
You get paid for that?
Look, I'm sure, guys, I think that's a per hour thing that I might want to be looking into, right? Oh, that's the illustration of the guy in the cage.
I know a friend of mine had a sissy that would come over and clean.
So here's one for you. A few months later, my boss called and started with, don't kill me. He was sending me to Dick Cheney's home. He had an assistant or secretary or maybe security who followed me around while I checked connections and signal levels.
The real Dick Cheney?
The real Dick Cheney. I'd already found a system problem outside. I just wanted to make sure I never had to effing set foot in that house again. Dick walked into the office where she was working while I was working. He was reading from a stack of papers and ignored me. I told the assistant it would probably be a week or so. I'd put the order in. He had my supervisor's number. And the assistant said, you do not understand. This can't take a week. This is the former vice president of the United States. Cheney looked up. I panicked and said the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah, well, waterboard me if it makes him feel any better. And I walked out. She didn't get in trouble or anything, but
if Cheney laughed.
So I'll leave it there, and I'm going to say this. Do yourselves a favor. Visit Focus Group Radio on Facebook. Tim will post this article, and it will link to HuffPost. It's worth the read because she goes paragraph by paragraph. You realize, oh, my God, these people see
everything.
You never know what's in a house, right? The door opens, and woo, boy.
It's like airline attendants, right? When they can write stories about all the crazy dealings
all the
with
nasty
public.
Behavior. So I hope I didn't bore anybody.
I can't imagine having someone in the basement. Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We'll go to Focus Group Radio
on Facebook.
On the Facebook, and we'll have it posted there. Mine is could not be any further apart.
And that's what the beauty of Caught Your Eye is, right?
Yeah. The headline is the University of Connecticut is offering a course on the marijuana industry for a budding career path.
Dun-dun-dun. Pun
The course is
intended,
already
right?
causing a buzz, according to the professor. They've run out of seats. They've got the class is called...
Wait, UConn?
Yeah, UConn, University of Connecticut.
I'm shocked at that. Really? Okay.
So Professor Jared Berkowitz is teaching a class. He's a plant scientist. The class is called Horticulture of Cannabis from Seed to Harvest. And it's taught in a lecture hall with over 400 seats. They said that the class filled up before even half of the university got notice that there was even going to be a class.
So Tim put up, if you're watching, if you're not watching on YouTube, Tim put up a graphic.
Indica and sativa.
Indica and sativa are the two different strains. Indica is more like sink into the couch, binge watch, don't get up and don't move. Sativa is more like party. I happen to be a sativa.
You're a sativa guy?
Yeah.
So the course starts this spring in 2019, and as I said, the class is causing quite a buzz. Connecticut's one of 33 states that have legalized medical marijuana. It's also decriminalized possession to some degree. And there's obviously a number growing of states that are legalizing marijuana for recreational use. And they said, UConn has started this class. They're not the first university to do so. Back in 2017, in Colorado at the University of Denver, they're offering a course entitled The Business of Marijuana, which I think is important. You and I have talked about that in terms
Lots
of the
money.
Business aspect.
And businesses that have not been run as legit businesses are now need to figure out tax and wages and
And taking a more practical approach in terms of what cannabis does and how it affects your body, the University of California, Davis has a whole group of classes that talks about the effects of cannabis on the body. And then the University of Washington, of course, in Washington State, has a class for health professionals on the use of medical marijuana to treat pain.
I was going to invite you on a mini road trip.
To where?
Northampton, Massachusetts.
Northampton. They said the lines of Connecticut cars are out
and New York plates, too.
Really?
Oh, Mike. Well, hello. It's an hour and 20 minutes, maybe an hour and 10 from my upstate place, straight across. And Northampton, for you and me, holds a certain kind of a luster, because that was the very first focus groups done to determine. It was
ground zero for lesbians.
Ground zero for the discovery that lesbians love to buy Subarus. So I checked out the store online, and there's this, and they now have, if you go to their website, they actually now, this is the commercially available stuff. If you have a doctor's script, which, by the way, from what I understand, any doctor, if you say to him, I'm having a pain in my elbow and I think sativa or a joint's going to help out, okay, there you go. I'm just saying, I've heard this from people like, yeah, it's easy to get a script. That's the express line. People with medical conditions can go right in and right to the counter. But the website had this big thing that said, volume of customers is leveled out. Best time to visit the store is from these hours, and you could usually be taken care of in like 5 or 10 minutes.
So I thought it was like a liquor store. Can you just go in and purchase?
Yes, you can. But hey, Garrett and John, are you guys aware of the quantity limit? There was something you could only buy X number of grams.
Is it an ounce, or I'm not too aware
I'm
of
not
it.
sure.
I assume it's an ounce max.
Yeah, whatever an ounce is in grams.
Yeah, 28 grams.
So, I think you could tell I was never good at math and chemistry. I still don't know what molar mass means, but that's another matter.
Doesn't matter.
I can't use it in daily life. So yeah, you're restricted to buying that
Certain amount.
But they have edibles. This other kind of edible that uses CBP or
CBD oil.
CBD oil.
Right? Is it CBD oil?
But, I'm looking at the packaging and the case display, and it's slick. I mean, I know you're paying for the packaging and you're paying a pretty steep tax on the sale of it. But to legitimately walk into a store and buy it and walk out and get in your car, I'm like, thumbs up on
Well, I'm
this.
wondering what's going to happen in New York, because supposedly New York and New Jersey were going to legalize.
Cuomo's no fool. He's fast-tracking this because...
Well, they've all said they're losing. They know they're losing revenue. And I love so the Catholic Church apparently came out against it, that Cardinal, who's the one, Timothy Dolan, that's here in New York.
Yeah.
And I laughed on social media. He made this big stand against pot and did this whole thing about it. And somebody says, why don't you worry about the priests that are screwing little boys first before you worry about marijuana sales?
My mom had this big, at her birthday thing, we had this interesting conversation about the church, because I grew up Catholic. And I grew up in an environment where our church was focused on taking care of the poor and the needy. I never heard anything else. This poor, needy, poor, you could spend your whole life. But she goes, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the faith, isn't there? I'm like, yeah, you think?
Speaking of hypocrisy, we've got a business birthday today that I love because of what happened to the brand.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the focus group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Carl Nicholas Karcher was born today, January 16th, 1917. He died in '08 at 90, just short of his 91st birthday.
Jeez.
Fell off his little rider at this Fiesta Bowl, knocked his head.
His little rider? You
Little
mean
scooter.
like, his what, Jazzy.
He fell off his Jazzy, and then he was taken to the hospital. But before I get there, so he had gotten a job when he grew up in Ohio, and had a job at a feed and seed out in California, and was kind of bored with that. And ended up one of his customers gave him a job in a bakery. And so as he was delivering baked goods, he realized that these little hot dog stands were making all kinds of money. So he borrowed $311 against his car. He had an old Plymouth car. He borrowed
not 300.
$311.
$320.
$311. And
I love the randomness of, okay.
And borrowed $15 from his wife Margaret's purse. And in 1941, they opened their first hot dog stands. And they were so successful, they ended up by 1945 adding brick and mortar and hamburgers. 1975, they opened their 100th restaurant, Carl's Jr. Now, it's America's 4th largest burger chain. I've never eaten at one. Have you?
No.
Have you guys ever eaten at a Carl's Jr.?
Don't believe so.
No, I haven't either.
If you ask the guys in the booth, White Castle.
Love White Castle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
delicious.
They just closed one.
White Castle, those little square burgers.
Love
Bring
those.
them on. But I've never eaten at a Carl's Jr.
No. So in 1997, the company purchased control of Hardee's, which I've been to.
Oh, Hardy. I didn't. So did they just?
So they bought Hardee's.
They took the name away.
So
And
they said Hardee's has since adopted the Carl's Jr. Star logo, several menu items, and I love this, and its reputation for slow, indifferent service, even by fast food standards. It's just kind of very slow and indifferent service. He got in trouble with Securities and Exchange Commission for insider trading. Was very, very strict conservative, and he received numerous awards for his money in support of conservative issues. He was devoutly Catholic. He and his wife raised a dozen children. He attended Mass every morning and also started all his meetings at work with the Pledge of Allegiance. He was a lifelong member of the Republican Party, staunch financial supporter, as I said, of conservative causes, heavily against abortion groups, and was anti-abortion and was heavily into anti-abortion groups. The largest single contributor in 1978 for Prop 6 in California, which required California to fire any teachers that were known to be gay or lesbian. So the best part about all this,
I was waiting for this,
is if you're watching on our video, is the advertising they would do with what I call these burger babes. They're full of sexual innuendo. They're very inappropriate, the advertising. And I think there's a video for the all-natural burger. I don't know if we can pop it up, a 30-second spot. Now look at the jugs.
I love going all natural.
I'm looking.
So this is for the
It
all-natural
just makes me
burger.
feel better.
This is a devout Catholic, by the way.
Nothing between me and my 100%
So there's melons, there's the
all-natural,
apple for the bud.
juicy, grass-fed beef.
Introducing the all-natural burger, the first ever in fast food, with no antibiotics, no added hormones, and no steroids. Only at Carl's Jr.
What do you boys in the booth think of that?
She certainly.
Are you
I want a
hungry?
burger.
Are you hungry? So he was
Well,
accused.
They cast it well. So I thought she's a beautiful young woman.
Listen,
and
anybody.
If you saw her
I'd
walking,
motorboat that 1, 2, 3.
if you saw her walking around a farmer's market, that would be an attention drawer.
Right.
But
What's this quote say? Whenever you're successful, you owe the success to the people in the community because they're the ones buying your product. So he was accused, as I said, of hamburger porn for its television advertising and also its print ads.
called it hamburger porn.
That's what it says, hamburger porn. They also used Paris Hilton in a couple of ads, bikini-clad washing a car. It says they also hired Hugh Hefner for ads in 2003. And Karcher said he was no longer ever in command of the brand at that time, and he was heartbroken that the company he had founded on Christian principles had taken such a wrong turn.
Well, these bodies come from God. I'm just, you could.
Happy birthday, Carl.
I'm taking it back to that.
But I do remember I think in the Super Bowl they did some of these ads. I think that was an issue.
That was
wasn't
a big Super Bowl draw years ago. Was the Carl's Jr. ads? Yeah.
So many of you know, friends of ours here on the Focus Group, here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East, is Deep Discount. And John and I have scoured their website for all kinds of things, and I found something that I think I really like this week.
Well, what's the sale?
Well, the sale is hard to find sale.
And I think that the reason I like this sale is this confirms everything you ever said. No, you cannot stream everything.
Yes.
In fact, it's a small percentage of the actual content library that's available for streaming all the time. So you do want packaged media, folks, at least now and then.
So it's the hard to find sale. I'll let you go first with what you found. What did you find?
One of my favorite movies that I stumbled upon years ago. It's a movie about Robert Evans, who used to be the head of Paramount Pictures. He greenlit The Godfather, Godfather 2. The movie's called The Kid Stays in the Picture. It's basically a look at his life and his career, narrated by him because he's still alive. It's done with no video. It's actually all still photography, and they did that technique like the Ken Burns thing with the Civil War where they pan in, they move around. But it's super well done. It's an amazingly compelling story, and it's a really good look into the actual business of making movies. A lot of little stuff goes on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but it's called The Kid Stays in the Picture. It's the life and times of Robert Evans, who was discovered, by the way, at a poolside in Beverly Hills.
Poolside.
So, you know, and don't you and I, and he was in charge of Chinatown, Godfather, Rosemary's Baby. He defined Hollywood high life, and so I think, hey guys, could you zoom in on the price? I think it's very inexpensive. Yeah, $15.03.
Wow.
It's definitely a must add to your library. You'll watch it. You'll remember a lot of the things he says. One of my favorite quotes is he goes, "There's three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. Events shared by multiple parties always yield different points of view." So he had this whole thing about you could be right, I could be right, and the third person could be right, but we're all looking at the same thing a different way. So Kid Stays in the Picture. What'd you find?
I like that. This one, it's kind of caught my eye, really, because as you mentioned, I've never even seen this before, and I love these sort of things, and I love fairs, and I love state fairs, and this was about the 1964 World's Fair here in New York. Now, before I go into it, there are no more World's Fairs anymore, are there? Why not, I wonder?
I don't know.
Because that would be a perfect thing for you and I to go to.
You and I would love the World's Fair. The remnants of the 64 World's Fair
still down there on the way to the airport
in Queens. Yeah,
there's
the Globe and the
So this was released in 2006. It's a documentary, and it's part of the Manufactured on Demand.
What year did the movie come out?
It came out in 2006.
Okay.
The original year it was released was 96. And then the release date on DVD was 2006. And this is one of the Manufactured on Demand items that they have at deep discount, which is quite cool. It's the list price was $19.95. You can get it for $15, but essentially it stars Judd Hirsch. And it says, relive the dazzle, wonder, and fun of the 1964 World's Fair, an extraordinary documentary narrated by Judd Hirsch that takes a fresh look at the sights and sounds of this once-in-a-lifetime event. They said it was part futuristic exhibition, part glittery strip mall, and they said it was planned among the optimism of the late 50s, but the fair's 2-year run was mired in chaos of the 60s.
I didn't know that.
They said nobody know that. They said the fair was a brawling, costly, altogether chaotic event. But few of the 52 million people who attended ever noticed. And it's done by acclaimed public TV producer Rich Hanley. And it draws on the delightful memories of the fairgoers and their hope for the future. I love this sort of stuff. The last big fair I went to was the Minnesota State Fair, and the B-52s were playing. There was all kinds of great stuff. I mean, it was just, I love to go to a fair. I love these sort of things, so I'd recommend this. I think this would be a fun watch.
I'm going to give you a DVD that I got years ago on the 1939 World's Fair. That's the one that had that Trilon and the Perisphere, that famous.
That's not the one in Chicago, was it?
It was here in New York as well.
New York, okay.
Yeah, and it was found footage that people took with some of the original like Super 8 color black and white cameras, and it's a vision of what they thought the future was going to be that is just like, wow.
So what was the release this week?
This week, focus group listeners in particular, I think, will want to pick this up. And in fact, when our friends at Deep Discount, Lauren in particular, on the spreadsheet, it says focus group only. This title. Well, because she knows we have quality listeners. This is a movie called Tea with the Dames, and it features Dame Maggie Smith, Dame Judi Dench, Dame Eileen Atkins, and Dame Joan Plowright. Four of the most celebrated actresses coming out of England. They have played numerous roles. They've won Oscars, Tonys, Emmys, and BAFTAs, and this movie is them sitting around talking and reminiscing about their careers in stage and film. And I can think of no better group of four women to watch talk about their career, because they started at one point and now they're here in the 2000s.
I've heard great things about this.
Yeah, I highly recommend people pick it up. It's the Tea with the Dames. So visit focusgroupradio.com and click on Sharky the Shark, the shark logo, and start shopping. I recommended a movie called The Kid Stays in the Picture, and this is all under the hard-to-find sale, by the way. And in fact, these are hard-to-find titles. You can't get that digitally, I don't think. Tim recommended a movie called The 1964 World's Fair. I want to see this as well. If you pick it up, I'm going to borrow it. And the release of the week is Tea with the Dames. Four amazing actresses, all British, of course, since they have the dame part. That's the female knighthood, right? The female being knighted. All right, we're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we have a shop talk that looks at how knowing a LGBT person in your life changes hearts and minds. It's an interesting article and interesting research, so stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to The Focus Group. I'm Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host John Nash, where we're all business except when we're not. I don't know, were we business today? Carl's Jr., we're business.
That is business.
Marijuana.
That's also
Marijuana
sex
at UConn
sells.
was
And,
business. Cable guy was
we're
business.
crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. Trust
Business
me.
from our POV.
Yeah, which is the only one that matters here on the Focus Group, right?
So the shop talk this week, John had found, and this is something we've all known for many, 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 many years, but this confirms it. And I'm just going to read one paragraph, which I thought kind of summed up everything. And this is a quote. It says, I would like every gay doctor to come out, every gay lawyer, every gay architect to come out, stand up and let the world know. That would do more to end prejudice overnight than anybody would imagine. I urge them to do that, urge them to come out. That's the only way we'll start to achieve our rights. That was said 40 years ago by Harvey Milk in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And it's something that you have had a number of agencies over your career that specialize in LGBT marketing.
That was from the British, LGBT and T.
And there was always the importance of whether, if you know, no matter who you are, if you had contact or you knew somebody, more than just a casual recognition, but you actually knew their name or you had conversations with them, that you could help do more by being present and being
just yourself.
Being yourself, yeah. And in terms of changing minds, whether it's about marriage or equal rights or just being equal in the eyes of society. But we've all known that, right?
Well, the article was called "Just One Gay Acquaintance Can Change Hearts and Minds on Rights." The study was conducted over a number of years, and it looked at different age categories. But Tim basically nailed it. That quote from Harvey Milk comes later in the article, but it's basically what they found. It doesn't matter what age group you're in. And in fact, the part of the study that was most fascinating to me was that older Americans shift their point of view more quickly once they know a gay couple or someone who's LGBT. But it goes back to something that, and you just said, Albert, I'm just going to repeat it, but years ago we were at a big off-site meeting for VW. And one of the marketing guys who we know to this day, Eric, was sitting next to me at this dinner after this big day of meetings. And we were talking about LGBT issues. And remember, this goes back to 2008, maybe. And he himself is younger than us. But I said, what do you think's the big thing? And what are trends and all that? And he just didn't say anything for a second. Then he goes, you know, the most important thing is just being out. And I remember logging that away because I'd heard it before, but he was, and this just proves it, that you need to be just yourself, right?
Yeah, and it reminded me of when, during the first, I believe it was the first term of the Obama-Biden administration, and Joe Biden had friends that were getting married in a same-sex marriage. And he had said that they were never really, the administration was still, like a lot of people, still had not come fully around to the idea. But I remember Biden saying, you know, he'd known these people for years, they had children, and he went to the wedding. He was like, well, why shouldn't this be okay? And again, it goes back to that whole changing of familiarity with change. And I wonder about that with the current group of any politician anywhere or any people anywhere, whether it's religious or it's in the business or it's in politics. They must know people that
they have to know. I mean, the Capitol, D.C. is not exactly devoid of some of these people. Yeah. I think you highlighted the same. I'm going to just do two stats. In 2006, about 45% of people with a gay or lesbian acquaintance supported same-sex marriage, but by 2010, the figure had increased to 61%. On the flip side, of the respondents who did not have a gay or lesbian acquaintance, only 22% approved of same-sex marriage in 2006. 4 years later, it dropped to just 18% of the same respondents who said they didn't support gay marriage. So that's one little stat. And then the other one that I found here is interesting. His analysis showed that straight people with no gay friends who encounter a gay or lesbian individual superficially, grocery store, subway, down the street, could have their prejudices reinforced, which I thought, I took that, I just kind of read that. I'm like, how would that get reinforced? Like you're in the grocery store, maybe the woman at the checkout, or maybe the guy's gay, maybe they're taking away totally superficial information, and that's just reinforcing the, right?
Well, the pissy queen. Don't. I don't need to hear it.
So we're going to wrap up by saying the big takeaway, which we've been saying from the start of this little segment, is that coming out works as a strategy for changing minds. You know, Tim, you often said this. It's hard to say no to somebody you know, right? It's hard to look someone in the eye who's been a neighbor for years and tell them, you know what I mean? It's like, once you know somebody, it just changes things. So.
But I often, yes. And I used to marvel at that because often the acceptance of the LGBT or the gay and lesbian marketing of Subaru was never as full as people would think at times. Although when Martina Navratilova would show up,
it's Martina.
First ones in line. The crazies that were anti.
Sign my tennis ball.
First ones to get a picture taken and get something signed, and I used to just shake my head.
Superstar.
So one of the dealers asked her why she wasn't married. See, it was in the early 2000s. Are you married, Martina? She looked at me. She's like, no. That's a shame. Have you not met anybody? No man, you played tennis all those years. I was like, is this guy?
He didn't get the memo.
Where is he?
He didn't get the memo. That's all you can say, Tim, is he did not get the memo.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Focus Group today. We want to thank our partner at Deep Discount. It is the hard-to-find sale. We recommended a couple of titles. Kid Stays in the Picture. Tim, you liked the 1964 World's Fair. And then it was, there it is, Tea with the Dames, which is the release of the week. It's about 4 of the greatest living British actresses, which I think would be a hilarious conversation to sit and watch them talk. So we want everybody to do what we always say every week. Don't text and drive, arrive alive, and we will see you next week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.